to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast, we're going to talk about a little G1. We're down to the final four competitors. We're going to jump back and talk about a little SummerSlam. What the fuck happened with that ending? We're going to talk a little AEW Rampage. Does anybody know why Best Friends and BCC are feuding? Collision, Raw, SmackDown, a whole bunch more this week on the Banned from Ringside podcast. Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. What up, Marks? And welcome back to another edition of the Banned from Ringside podcast. I'm your special guest host, Jason Cornelius Bell, a.k.a. JCB, for those who listen to the podcast with my man Nattering with Nate. I did the Rob Van Dam JCB kind of motion, so that way everybody can get their laugh in, neither here nor there. We're going to talk about Bill Vega in just a second, but we're going to talk about my right-hand man with the master plan out there in Portland, Oregon. It's PR West himself, Mr. Three Beer, Zach Pullman. Tell me something good, Three Beer.
Something good. It is July, but it is Oktoberfest beer season, because this is whenever they release the Oktoberfest beers, and it's just really some of the best times of my life. Oktoberfest and Fresh Hop. There is no sober October for me. I'm more of a dry January kind of guy.
You did say this was July/August, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay. So, just wanted to make sure we were on the same month wavelength. You said no sober October. I'm like, dude, it's July, August. It's the second week of August, for Christ's sake. What are you talking about? You sit there bagging up all the Oktoberfest, man. Do I have to give you my address so you can send me some of that shit?
Well, I'm cheersing tonight. Bill's not around. He had to duck out for a family emergency, but we have a fresh, cold Oktoberfest here. Since he's not around to do birthdays, just want to make sure we say happy birthday to Michael Wallace Seals. It'll be belated when this thing comes out, but it is today.
It is today. So, yes, friend of the show, Michael Wallace Seals, was at SummerSlam, so we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the last few nights of the G1. Me and Zach were kind of talking amongst ourselves before we started recording. It was like, Jesus Christ, the G1 has literally taken over our lives to the point where nothing else is kind of, we missed this or we missed that, or I've gotten up, ridiculously early to catch up on the stuff that I want to see, other, promotions I wanted to watch. But yes, we're in the G1 grind, so we're going to talk about that for a little bit. Main roster stuff, AEW, obviously, we're getting ready to roll up to Wembley. We had a couple announcements for Wembley. And on that lovely note, let me do my spiel. I'll ask your congregation to bow their heads as I read from the latest edition of the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 320, chapter 3, verse 14. And the good smart saith, hashtag boo the heels. It's all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat, the holy trinity of BFR. Just one side note before we get started. I know somewhere in London, Matt is hearing this and is going apeshit. Hey, brother. This was like a last-minute thing, man. We just found out about this like 30 minutes ago that Bill's not going to be on the podcast. But the next time, I'll be more than happy to call you, wake your ass up in the middle of the night so you can jump on the pod. Otherwise, if I'd have known ahead of time, I would have made adjustments to make sure you were on it or figured out something otherwise, do another date, whatever the case may be. So don't fret, Matt. We did not do this without you. This was a scenario where life kind of happens. And on that note, let's talk some wrestling, shall we? Let's get to that 3 count. And in classic BFR fashion, we really don't know who's going to start, so I'll let you start, Two-Beer. You get the 1 count. It's dealer's choice, whatever you want to talk about.
All right, so let's just go with SummerSlam, since, that's one of the big 4 pay-per-views, so let's get that out of the way. Or,
you said let's get that out of the way.
Deal with the worst first.
Oh, damn, we going like that? Let's do this shit.
I'm not going to bash it too hard, but I was way more hyped going into this show than I left this show. So,
I agree.
That's kind of why I say dealing with the worst first. It was not a bad show by any means, but they've been having some pretty banger premium live events, especially ones that have been like a very brisk, like 3 hours, 3.5 hours, almost like kind of like not takeover quality, but like as far as just like banging something out like on a weekend, 3 hours of wrestling. We all have busy lives. It's been a pretty good run, and this one was a little longer and didn't deliver quite as the hype that was expected, at least in my opinion. But we can talk about it here. Starts off with it opened really well. Logan Paul beat Ricochet. I really liked this match. Their goal was to have the most viral match in WWE history. At least that was like the tagline. I don't know if they necessarily succeeded in that, but they definitely succeeded in having a pretty fantastic match. Both guys looked great. This was essentially, like we had said leading up to this, Logan Paul has looked really good in a string of losses since he started WWE, and this was his opportunity to get a win. He did a great job, like old school, like heel work with like all of his like new school kind of moves, and you wouldn't really think old school as far as when you talk about Logan Paul, but he's calling out Samantha Irvin, who's Ricochet's fiance, and after he beats him, which we'll talk about the finish here in a second, but he's just the whole time he's talking, he's beating him down, beating Ricochet down, and just like mocking Samantha Irvin. And then whenever she has to say that the winner is Logan Paul, he's like telling her to say it one more time, and she's like crying, and it was really, really well done. But I think this was pretty much summed up by Michael Cole on commentary when he said, "This match was great, except that finish sucked." They basically just had a hooded dude that was described as one of Logan Paul's guys. It wasn't even like a guy. It was just one of Logan Paul's dudes, his entourage, handed some brass knucks. And I think, WWE, they're usually not subtle about things. And it's like they really want to knock you over the head with this. Like, they're knocking you over the head. Just in case you guys didn't understand, Logan Paul is a heel.
Right.
And, I didn't necessarily, at first I was like, they didn't have to like protect Ricochet. But then I was like, wait, they didn't do that to protect Ricochet. They don't really give a shit about Ricochet. Ding! They did it to bash you over the head with this idea that Logan Paul was a heel, in case you didn't realize that since like the first time you ever heard his name.
Right. And that's something that we had talked about before, that I thought WWE was kind of trying to position him as a babyface, and I just thought that didn't work. It was kind of like round peg, square hole. Just looking at the list of matches, I thought this screamed curtain jerker off the bat, and it was the perfect curtain jerker match. It got fans interested and invested off the top. Both guys, I thought, did a really good job of just in the ring, telling their story, whatever the case may be. Right guy went over. I thought all predicted Logan Paul. I don't have the predictions, obviously, because Bill has the prediction book, but we'll deal with that next week when he gets back. But like I said, I thought
when he could just let us know that we lost and he won. Whether
I don't know,
he's just going to kayfabe us.
I don't know. As I say, I think your boy did all right on the SummerSlam predictions, but we'll just hold off on that until we see the official results. Like I said, Logan Paul wins this match. Ricochet, I thought, was a perfect foil for Logan Paul. Their styles match really well. I guess the next question is, what's next for Logan Paul? Ricochet will probably go back to the mid-card in some form or fashion, which kind of sucks. I thought that, and I said it when I watched it late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, which really made me mad about the finish, but neither here nor there. We'll talk about that in a second, the main event finish. I think this is a scenario where Ricochet kind of proves that he can be one of those guys that's a linchpin in your mid-card division, whatever you want to call it, whether it's the U.S. or intercontinental title picture. He can be a guy that's in it. Not saying that he can be the guy. I don't ever see him being the world heavyweight champion in WWE, but he can be somewhere in the middle, having really good matches, holding the intercontinental title or the U.S. title like he already has in the past, and that feels like that's going to be at least his ceiling for WWE. Logan Paul, obviously on the rise. He's already had a title match, for God's sake, so the sky's the limit for him. Ricochet did his job. He did it well. I thought, like I said, this screamed curtain jerker, and I was like, okay, we're off to a good start. What's next?
Next, again, this show started off with a bang. We had Cody Rhodes beating Brock Lesnar. This was not the typical 1-2 punch of Brock Lesnar, big move, big move, big move. It had a different cadence. Basically, the story of this match is that Brock Lesnar was destroying Cody Rhodes the entire time. He destroyed him for 2 weeks before the pay-per-view even happened, just beat the living shit out of him every single week. And then was just destroying him in the ring and outside of the ring. And the idea was that he was trying to give Cody an out to lose via count out. And he did everything. F5 outside, F5 through the table. And the crowd was really into this. I was really into it because it was a different kind of Brock Lesnar match than we normally get. And it told an excellent story. And then, of course, Cody just, when he's at the very end of his rope, he does this big comeback. And, he beats this monster clean. He doesn't roll him up. He doesn't, do anything. He beat this monster clean. And Brock acknowledges it and raises his arm, to all four points of the compass. And I thought this was, this kind of more than anything made, Brock Lesnar was like, I'm making Cody Rhodes tonight. And I think he made him. And he was already made, but it just solidified it that Cody is the guy, because they did such a fantastic job. And in my head, I was I thought that it was just a thing where they paid Brock some extra money.
Right.
I was just joking about that. Paid him some extra money, but
no
then I heard
doubt.
that,
No doubt. Hey, Brock, I'm gonna need you to do one last thing before you leave. What?
Yeah. But in my head, then I got to thinking, Brock probably really does respect Cody, because what did Brock do? He left and he went out and he made a mark on the world. He made himself bet on himself that he could go to UFC, and then he came back bigger and better than ever. And that's what Cody did too. Not UFC, but think about the shit that Cody did. In the vacuum of WWE, this guy was a mid-carder with a famous dad who went off and started, went to Japan, worked indies, and then he ended up not just working indies, but starting a promotion that is the closest thing to rival WWE in its entire history. And there's probably a lot of real deal respect there. And anyway, this is a good match. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, I was going to say, you weren't saying anything that I hadn't already thought. I'll go this far. I was kind of looking for something a little more. I'm not sure exactly what I was looking for. Maybe bigger spots, the table spot, or not the table spot, but, well, I guess the commentary table spot. That was a spot that I was looking for. But then I was like, okay, maybe something else is coming up. God knows he brought a tractor out last year. No telling what he can come out with this year. Obviously, no holds barred, but you get my point. In that scenario, it fell a little short, but I thought this was probably the best of the three. I thought this was the best, then the first, and then the third, or the second one, to me, was my least favorite. I didn't like the whole cast angle, or whatever the case may be. I didn't think that when Brock acknowledged Cody, for lack of a better word, I thought that was on script. I thought they made him do that, or asked him to do it, paid him to do it, whatever the case may be. And when I come to find out that they didn't, that's when I was like, okay, that was Brock, basically putting Cody over to everybody. For those who might not have thought that, he should have won at WrestleMania, and now he hasn't. This is Brock basically saying, hey, this is going to be the guy. It's just going to be a matter of time when it's going to happen. Obviously, we got a story to tell with Cody. We got to figure out how he's getting back to Roman Reigns because that's his story. Clearly, we're going to talk about a little Raw episode here because the Cody story does take a different turn, and it's not Roman Reigns, but we'll get there in a second. I thought this was good. For me, I was like, okay, 2 good back-to-back matches. We're good. We're doing well. I'm not disappointed. It's a little late, but I got a Red Bull in me. We're going good. What's next?
I forget that you guys are watching this 2 hours behind me. That's like, dude, I start these things.
Hell, I had to work too.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. Like that's one beautiful thing about West Coast feeds is like it is 4 p.m. whenever I start these, like a normal pay-per-view.
Eat a dick,
and
dude.
So I'm just like, I'm like done by 8.
Fuck you. God, I hate you right now. I'm trying to get out of fucking work like a motherfucker. It's like, all right, everybody start cleaning this shit up. Your boys got to go.
That's why Tupac was all like, West Side's the best side. Like, pay-per-views start early.
I'm trying to move that way, man. I'm trying. Goddamn. I figured that mountain area code, that's perfect. It's somewhere in that middle where I can still do my thing and then have a little hour or 2 left to go out and do it with something else if I want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was next?
It stays light till like 10 p.m.
Dog, it's crazy. I love the West Coast.
But everything is twice as expensive, so there's that.
That's why I'm working 2 jobs. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So then there was a Slim Jim Battle Royal. I'm not gonna say anything bad about this, but I don't really have anything good to say except for the right guy won. But you know, I feel like we've been spoiled. Battle Royals just usually are not that great anyway. But between Royal Rumbles and AEW does a lot of Battle Royals, but they tend to do a lot of really good storytelling in them, and they didn't do any of that in this match. Like they had Omos come out, and I don't know why I always do that. He came out, and they kind of put him over big, the Nigerian giant. He came in, and he threw a bunch of guys out, and then a bunch of guys ganged up on him and threw him out. Pretty classic stuff.
Right.
But they got down to Sheamus and LA Knight. LA Knight did the cool thing where he jumps up, like in one jump up to the top rope and does the superplex and threw Sheamus out. But other than that, I mean, this is just a battle royal, but solid and fine. And, got a big pop. LA Knight's top merch seller. He's a ratings draw. People, they're just kind of riding this wave and they're being patient. And, people were upset about Money in the Bank, a little bit. I think people were happy enough with Priest because he's a solid choice, but I know there was a lot of people upset that LA Knight didn't get it. But if you're not planning on putting the world title on LA Knight, then you don't put Money in the Bank on him because they would have freaked out even more if he would have failed to cash in. So I think he should take Austin Theory's title because Austin Theory's a nothing champion. That's just me. I don't know what you think they should do with him, but.
Okay, well, I'll answer the question first and then I'll throw a question back at you. That's what I've always kind of thought, that now that you're seeing LA Knight kind of turn babyface, obviously he had the promo battle with Miz on Monday night, and Miz is basically there to make sure he's getting LA Knight over. He's the consummate heel, and he should be able to help LA Knight to get from point A to point B, where point B is, I would assume, it would be Austin Theory and the U.S. title. But I won't sit up here and say that Santos Escobar has no chance. I guess here's my question, just going on Austin Theory. What's happened to Austin Theory?
I mean, he's kind of the perfect example of they did a ton to try to get him over. Like they had him beat John Cena at WrestleMania.
Right.
And the fans just he just doesn't have it right now. Like he's got the look, he's got the fundamentals and stuff in the ring. He just doesn't quite have whatever that it factor is, like, to click with the fans. Whereas, like, granted, LA Knight's like a veteran, right? But he also at the same time, like, he just has it, like, right now. Like, it's clicking. He's hot with the fans. Like, he's a hot hand right now. And I don't know what it'll take for Austin Theory. A lot of times it takes a heel turn, but he's already a heel.
Right.
I think it's just maybe some, new character work, something. I don't know. It's going to take something. Or it's just going to be a guy, which is also fine. Fine to just be a guy.
Yeah, but I mean, the way he was been kind of introduced, I won't say he was the next big thing because that's obviously Brock's moniker, but you kind of get my point. Austin Theory had superstar tabbed on him fairly early. Granted, it was from Vince McMahon or whatever the case may be, but you can kind of
maybe that's part of it where he was like a Vince guy, and this just isn't. This is even though it's still WWE. Like guys like Grayson Waller have just completely outshined him.
Really, you think Grayson Waller's outshined him this quickly? Grayson Waller hasn't been on the main roster that long. I mean, let's say 2 months tops, 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like he absolutely has. I think that Cena thing was like a waste with Austin Theory and his little interactions, Grayson Waller's interactions with like the legends and stuff. I feel like he's handled himself much better, and he's gotten more out of those interactions than Theory has. Maybe if they did something with like ran it back with like Gargano, and that was the best that Theory's ever been. And he was just kind of a doofus, goofball. Maybe he needs a face turn. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like he's been outshined by these other NXT call-ups.
Who's the better talker, Theory or Grayson Waller?
Oh, definitely Grayson Waller.
Who's better in the ring?
In my opinion. I haven't seen as much Grayson Waller because I wasn't watching as much NXT. I'd say maybe Theory. Theory doesn't fuck anything up. He's got a decent moveset. I've seen more Theory, so it's kind of an uneducated opinion, but I'll say Theory.
Okay, fair enough. What's next?
What was next? It was the low part of the show, and I'm not even gonna shit on the women. They were destined to fail with this MMA rules thing. I mean, we're not an MMA podcast, but I've seen plenty of MMA. I don't watch it as much anymore, but whenever it was like the big thing, we watched a lot of it was on like Spike TV. Like,
for sure.
I worked bars, the shit was on all the time. I know MMA, and I kind of keep up with it through like the Wrestling Observer and stuff. But like, this was just gonna fail because it made nobody happy, right? So it didn't make wrestling fans happy because it was a stupid, weird gimmick match, and it didn't make MMA fans happy because it was a stupid, weird gimmick match. Like in MMA, has there ever been a time where they're like, whoa, stop punching the person unless the match is over?
Right.
They do that, but then the match is over.
Right.
Like, so this is not MMA rules. It was just so dumb. Like, and then they had doctors in, and then like, Ronda attacks the doctors, which I feel like is just like kind of an overdone spot. Like, it's very wrestling, but I don't like it. And, it definitely couldn't have made Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey happy, especially because like Shayna Baszler legit got the shit beat out of her. Like, like this huge black eye.
Yeah, she did not look good on Monday night. I was like, God damn. Woo.
No. And regardless what you're going to say about Ronda Rousey, her first run was good, and it really elevated the women's division. Her second run has left a lot to be desired. But, she's a hard worker. She got Shayna her opportunity with WWE. They're like best friends. And she handpicked Shayna to like be her last match out, to give her the rub like on the way out. Ronda's never been submitted in her whole run in WWE, first or second, and they had Shayna submit her, and it did nothing for nobody. And I think it was more like this thing was doomed from the beginning. Whenever Ronda got the broken arm, and they rushed the whole like story, and then they gave it a terrible gimmick. And I kind of feel bad. It was just a shitty situation, and I hope that it doesn't stall Shayna because I feel like they could do some shit with Shayna. She's the one that's around, and I mean her run in NXT was very good. So.
No, I agree with that. if it wasn't for Asuka, we'd be talking about Shayna Baszler having the greatest run in women's NXT history when it comes to the women's title in NXT. I can't agree with you any more than what you said. I mean, you really fucking nailed it. If we wanted to see an MMA match, you would go to, wherever it is, Caesar's Palace. I don't even know where they do this shit anymore. I'll hardly watch it nearly as much as I used to, but you get my point. The gimmick, and I'll use the word gimmick in quotations, was bad because I know Shayna Baszler had a problem with, someone using the word gimmick. But I'm sorry, when the marquee says World Wrestling Entertainment, wrestling is in the thought process. We're not paying for an MMA rules kind of match. If you wanted to do that, I was like, maybe Fight Pit might have been the way to go because they did it a couple of times and it kind of worked. It felt like MMA, but it had wrestling elements to it. I was thinking maybe you could go that route. I agree with you. Once Ronda decided that she was done, they rushed this so quickly. And then on top of it, the week before, or I'm not sure when they pulled the Becky Trish match off the SummerSlam card. I guess it was the week of. And all of a sudden now you're getting, back-to-back vignettes of Ronda and Shayna, telling the story or whatever. I'm like, you should have did this way before this. So that felt like another, way of rushing this to get to press, so to speak. So then the physical match itself, I mean, I didn't mind it up until the point where the doctor got involved. I'm like, okay, now what the fuck? Okay, are we going to call this shit or not? Ronda throws, the referees or whatever. That's just what Ronda does. Okay, whatever. Yeah, you the baddest bitch. At the end of the day, it's like you said, nobody got over. It did nothing for Shayna. It does nothing for Ronda. You see Shayna coming out on Monday night, all banged up, arm in a cast, and she beats Zoe Stark. Now, what the fuck does that do for Zoe? As far as I'm concerned, you let a one-armed woman beat your ass on Monday night. So, I mean, it just, the domino effect of it all basically starts when Ronda breaks her arm and decides, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, and now I'm ready to quit. Instead of trying to, I get it, SummerSlam, but I mean, damn, tell a story. Let Ronda come back and then tell this story. Payback is what? A few weeks away from now? I mean, you could have did it like that. I just think the whole thing was rushed, like you said, and Shayna doesn't look any better coming out of it than she did going in.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully something happens.
No, because, I mean, she beats Zoe Stark. She said, saw Becky Lynch backstage. I got a receipt for you, too. So there's a plan for Shayna now. How they execute it is going to be the question. But we'll get to that later. What's next?
All right. Gunther defeated Drew McIntyre. This was exactly kind of what you would think, big, meaty men slapping meat. Although I think the crowd was kind of dead compared to the quality of the match because of the previous match. I think it just sapped a lot of energy, and they were pretty hot up until this point. Like Logan Paul, like the first two matches, they were very, very hot, and be interested to kind of hear, live from somebody there. But I felt this match better than the reaction that it got, but it did suffer from the crowd reaction. But eventually Gunther prevails, strong champion. He's probably going to beat the Honky Tonk Man's record. And, they did get the crowd at the end. And, something's going to have to give with Drew also. I feel like since there was no Randy Orton, which we talked about last week. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or we talked about it before, but Randy Orton coming back to talk, to face Cody. I feel like Drew maybe doing a heel turn and having a battle with Cody. I think that would probably be the best thing for both of them. Kind of what do you do with either one? That's what I would do. But yeah, it wasn't as good as other matches between these guys, but it was still pretty good.
No, I agree. I think there was meat left on the bone, and I think ultimately the reason why I think, and it's funny that you said you were thinking Drew heel turn. I'm thinking Drew's going to be the guy to ultimately defeat Gunther. It's like a month away, if I'm not mistaken. Chad Gable's next. That's the Payback pay-per-view. I guess I'm pretty sure that's what the next pay-per-view is. Shinsuke, Seth, probably is going to be on that as well. We'll talk about that here in a second.
Yeah,
but
I think Sheamus tweeted out right after Drew failed. I think he said, "I'm Honky Tonk's only chance."
That's about that shit.
Pretty funny. Yeah.
I like that shit. Sheamus is so good like that. He's just, so witty, and it just, he gets the fucking X, I guess is what it's called now. Anyway, I thought they left meat on the bone for the fact that I think Drew ultimately is going to be the one to take the Intercontinental title off of Gunther, so that way it kind of frees him up, like I said last week, to ultimately start to chase Seth Rollins. Now, if that doesn't happen, let's just say for the sake of argument, he being Gunther, beats Chad Gable, then comes back and then beats Drew McIntyre a second time. Now I can kind of see where you're going with it. The first time might be, it's just to get us to the record. The second time is where you can play the card of frustration. I've been gone. I was the pandemic champion, yada, yada, yada. That way, if you want to go that route and turn Drew McIntyre heel, that would make more sense in the way, because connecting the dots is going to be an issue coming up here in a little bit. At least that way the dots would connect, at least in my mind, and that way the heel turn would make more sense. Right now, I still think Drew's going to be the guy that beats Gunther, but if he turned heel, I'm here for it, because a strong heel Drew McIntyre, we've never really seen. We've seen a heel McIntyre that was kind of like, Roman Reigns' little lapdog there for a hot minute. This shouldn't be Roman Reigns' lapdog. He should be, if not the top heel, one of the top heels on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I mean, with Brock, stepping away for a while, like, he could be the big monster heel on Raw. For sure. And he's believable.
Yeah, for sure. I was about to say former champion. I mean, there's a big shit, two-time champion. There's nothing you could really take away from him at that point. It's not like he's not been put over. He's been put over. It's just now, with the fans involved, do you want to do it again? Do you want to say, hey, thanks for, getting us through the pandemic. Here's another title run. With the second title, that's why I like to have the second title. I know you talked about it with AEW, at least for WWE's purposes, a second title we kind of need it, because there's one title that's rarely defended, and that Joker's being bogarted by Roman Reigns. This one, at least, you're going to see it being defended at least once a month. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, totally.
Speaking of the World Heavyweight Championship, talk about Seth and Finn.
Yeah, so this was next, and this one, at first, I was like, kind of like their first match, right? I was just like, man, this really just isn't getting out of second gear, but they really, usually matches don't get better whenever the outside interference starts, but, this one absolutely did. The crowd just, ate it up, and the story was that Finn was, obsessed with the 7 years thing, and he wants to beat Seth Rollins on his own, and he's having some problems. And I thought that this was just pretty fantastically done storytelling wise. I thought that they should have put the title on Finn, but if you're not going to do that, this was excellent. Priest comes down. He's got the briefcase. Finn doesn't understand what he's doing. He's just like, no, he's like, we're going to stick to plan A, and then, things like he almost gets pinned and he's like, okay, yeah, plan B. He's like, give me that briefcase. And, almost gets a near fall. He does his moves. He gets the coup de grace. The crowd is super into it by this point and, isn't able to pin him. Seth kicks out and, some fuckery going on. He's like, tells Priest, give me that briefcase. I'm going to just, you distract him. And, Priest goes around. And
the look on his face was just like, dude, motherfucker.
I was gonna say Priest did everything right here. Like he was just like, I'm here to support, and then the look on his face where he's just like, God damn it, like,
right?
Are you serious? Like,
come on, dude, do I have to do everything around here? Just slide the briefcase in. He walks to the other side. I'm just like, dude, this is great. I love it.
And then he like did it, and he was like, you tell he wasn't happy about it, and then Finn fucked it up. He was like, basically, he was so worked up and distraught and like obsessed with beating Seth that he wasn't seeing things straight, and the finish was great where he got curb stomped onto the briefcase that he was planning on using. And this was absolutely excellent. So it managed to further the storyline, further the division, even though I don't want to see Judgment Day break up, but like the tension is there, which is what we wanted from Seth having the belt, or from Finn having the belt, or at least that's what I wanted. So we get the tension even if we don't get the belt, and that's fine. You want to solidify the belt, you want to solidify Seth, whichever. Seth did put Cody over 3 fucking times last year, so given like, and it wasn't that long ago where like Seth was very, very cold, like losing to the Fiend, and they did the whole Monday Night Messiah thing, and I mean, Seth Rollins was like on life support there for a fucking while. So yeah, this is fine. But anyway, what do you think?
No, it felt. I like the fact that, Finn had the 7 on his shoulder, the jacked up shoulder. Seth comes out with the gear that he had when he, hurt Finn Balor. So, I mean, I like those mind games, the callbacks, the throwbacks, whatever you want to call them. It just adds a little more intrigue to the story. The match itself, like you said, was pretty much going to script. It wasn't like it was doing anything crazy or, out of pocket. But then once, Damian Priest came down, I was like, okay, here we go. Now what's getting ready to happen? I like the fact that it's Finn fighting himself when it's really been, very choreographed. Priest comes down, real distracts, Dom does whatever, boom, boom, boom. Everybody has their role. Whoever's in the match, benefits at the end. This time around, that was not the case. And like you said, Finn is trying to do it all by himself. He's that obsessed versus just accepting the help. And God knows this is probably one of my biggest problems too. I don't like to ask for help. Motherfucker, move. I'll do this shit my damn self. And Finn was in that Jason mode where he's just like, I'm going to do this. The curb stomp on the briefcase, perfect. Priest, his facial expressions, absolutely fucking gold. I wouldn't have guessed 6 months, well, not even 6 months ago, a year ago, when Judgment Day really first started, and you'd have told me they'd have put the Money in the Bank briefcase on them, at that point, I'd have laughed my fucking ass off. It ain't so funny no more. Now you can kind of see why they did it. And slowly but surely, Damian Priest is going to be one of the guys that's going to shine out of this. I won't say Judgment Day breaks up. I just think they take Damian Priest out and then slide JD McDonough in. Backstage on Raw, you saw Finn and JD talking or whatever the case may be. JD McDonough attacks Sami Zayn. Obviously that was Sami Zayn was a part of the main event at that point against Judgment Day. That's where I think this ultimately goes, where Damian Priest somehow either gives the finger to Judgment Day or they give him the boot. And then you put JD McDonough in. That's just my guess because, like I said, I don't think you break up Judgment Day. It's not as hot as the Bloodline, but it's doing a lot of the Bloodline legwork. It's on SmackDown, it's on Raw, it's on NXT. So in that scenario, I don't think you can break it up, but you can replace one member with the other. Still keep Priest heel because now he's pissed, but he still wants to be Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I mean they lost Edge and they flourished, so it's not like you can't shift some things around.
Which is once again crazy shit. If you'd have told me at that point, Edge goes away and the Judgment Day gets better, I'd be like, pass that shit on over.
yeah,
this is great.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Next was the triple threat match. So the first 15 minutes of this were an absolute mess. between, like triple threat matches are hard. We talked about this in like a text thread. A lot of WWE triple threats, if you haven't recognized the pattern, is the two people beat somebody up and then they throw them outside the ring and they kind of have a singles match. And then the other person comes in and takes one out, and then the other two people kind of have a singles match. And that's kind of the cadence and the pattern. This was them trying to do a bunch of triple threat spots, which, when they're done well, even when they're done well, they often look choreographed, like in triple threats. And when they're not going well, it looks terrible. And that was like between just, rough spots and wardrobe malfunctions and all kinds of shit happening. The first 15 minutes of this just sucked. And, then, Bianca gets tossed to the outside. Kayfabe hurts her knees, and she's being walked to the back, and she, powers her way back to the ring.
I'm looking at this shit like, man, they keeping this camera on her a little too long for my taste. If it was this deep, they'd be like, man, get her off her camera, get her the hell out of here. And once they started to walk her up the ramp, I'm like, man, this is some bullshit. Yep. Hold up. And then she takes off to the ring. Go ahead.
What do you do whenever you fall down and hurt your leg? I know I climb 6 feet in the air and do a 450 splash. Like, that's my first thought. But it was dramatic, and it added to the story, afterwards. And so I forget how like the ending happened. It was what was it? Charlotte had. Did she have the figure 8 on? Yeah, so she had
the figure eight. Yeah, then Asuka blew the mist in Charlotte's face. She was getting ready to go, but they still had. Let's try this again. Mist in the face of Charlotte, but Charlotte still had the now figure 4 on Bianca. Asuka's going to attack Bianca. Bianca rolls Asuka up for the victory. It was super scenic, and that's when the first thing I'm like, dude, what the fuck? That was my knee-jerk reaction. Was like, what the fuck is this? This is some John Cena bullshit. And I said it's like
James Cena,
right? It's like 3:30 at this point, probably a little earlier, but it's like 3 o'clock hour in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, just cursing like nobody's business. And I'm like, dude, I'm pissed now, because I'm not pissed because Bianca won. It has nothing to do with Bianca. I like Bianca. Dare I say I love her. Great with the fans. Great baby face. Athletic. Yada, yada, yada. She wasn't the longest reigning champion in this, modern day for nothing. But this was not the way I wanted to see that happen, especially on Asuka, for God's sakes. I mean, damn, of all people, of anybody that feels the least over of the three, it always feels like Asuka, but she has, she's done this, she's won that, she's probably the most decorated of the bunch. Not as many as title reigns as Charlotte, but I mean, she's won Money in the Bank, she's won Royal Rumble, she, NXT, this, that, other. Asuka has a variable checklist of shit, of accomplishments that she's done, but she feels like the least over. And when Bianca rolled her up, I was like, man, fuck this shit. And then it happened.
And then Io Sky's music hits, and the crowd had already popped for a title change, and then they went even crazier for this. And Io Sky just saved the day, because this is what people are going to remember. They're not going to remember how bad the match was. And Io Sky comes in, cashes in.
Before you go in, did you think Bayley was going to cost Io the cash in?
I didn't. Whenever I heard that, I was really hoping, because they have done so many, and said it before, they've done so many failed cash-ins with the women, and I really hoped that they would not do that with Io Sky. And so it wasn't in my head. I was, I just thought that they were just going to let her cash in.
I would be lying if I said I didn't at least think about it. Obviously, with the few times, maybe let's just say twice, that Io tried to cash in, Bailey somehow, some way was in the middle where she didn't give the briefcase fast enough to the referee, or didn't get the briefcase, from the desk, or whatever the case may be in that scenario. So, that in my head, that's why I was like, is Bailey might fuck this shit up. And that's going to really piss me the fuck off. But no, I agree with you totally. I remember the Bianca finish because it's something that I didn't see coming, and it immediately made me mad because I'm like, come on. She's basically on one leg, but she can roll people up, in the middle of a figure four. I mean, God love Bianca, but can we take the cape off of her, for Christ's sake? But then Io Sky came in and just basically made her SummerSlam moment, her, WWE moment. She'll always go down in history for this one. So, yeah, she saved this match for sure, because it was, to me, this was the low point of the night. It was the worst match of the night. And God knows, I'm not burying it because it's women. It was just bad, okay? It's like you said, they were trying to do too much. And I applaud the effort, but damn, this was just clunk as a motherfucker. And if it would have just ended with Bianca winning, whew, we'd have had some words for this one. This has been worst match of WWE for 2023, in the, running for the beefer. Io Sky saved that motherfucker from being on the list, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it is surprising they're going to give somebody an 8-second title run that they didn't give it to Charlotte. Just a pattern number,
I was thinking that too. I'm like, watch this bitch win. I swear to God, man, damn. I don't have, like I said, ultimately they got the right person to have the title. How you got there for like 30 seconds, I was pissed off, but I was like, wait a minute, Bianca's hurt. And then as soon as I said that, it's like, EO's music hit. I was like, okay, all right, just okay. Let's see how this thing plays out before I get really, really pissed. And they eventually got it right. Just the match itself, getting there. That car was busted up by the time they pulled up to the destination spot, and smoke's coming off. The wheels are clanking the whole 9 yards. So yeah, it was not a very good look by the time they got there. But Io winning the title, like you said, saved that match. Let's talk about the main event.
Main event started out awesome with Jey Uso's entrance. Looked good. He had the white lay on. And he came out, and man, I posted this online on the Friends of BFR, but Jey Uso just has it, right? Like he has the connection to the fans, so much more than Jimmy. Really almost even more than Roman. Roman's obviously a bigger star, but he just has a connection with the fans. And there's a fantastic shot where he's getting ready to get in the ring, and he climbs up, and they're doing the down synth, and he's waving his hands up and down. There's a sea of people just waving their hands up and down. That thing, that shot, I feel will be in video packages, for Jey Uso.
No doubt.
Long time, down the road. But really, really good stuff. And then it just slowed down from there. Friend of the show, Patriot Pat, said he watched the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart Iron Man match during Roman Reigns' entrance. I thought that was very funny. And this was just it was so slow. And usually, they have these tighter pay-per-views, like we said, and then this was it was the same match that we've seen over and over, and it works when you have a legitimate contender for the title, but there wasn't a single person when they said there's 50,000 people in that building. I bet maybe 2 of them at most thought that Jey Uso might even have a chance at winning. And you can't just run a match the same way whenever you don't have, a contender. And besides the fact that it was, 35 minutes and it could have been 15 and it was getting late and, everybody's getting tired. This to me is kind of where the Bloodline storyline has jumped the shark, and I know that you can make some sense out of it, but it just seems at this point they're dragging it out. I understand the the bit with Solo where, Reigns accidentally speared Solo and there was like a point of contention there. That makes sense, right?
Right.
Plant that seed because eventually, like I've said, in the past, this Roman Reigns storyline is him rising up, having everything, the bloodline having everything, and then Roman Reigns slowly losing everything to become, a destitute tribal chief. At least that's in my head, like where they're going with it. But the Jimmy Uso thing, like they're probably gonna have some, kayfabe reason why, Jimmy gets overlooked whenever he's gone or like whatever. Or maybe Jay made the decision for him to leave the bloodline and he didn't actually get a chance to make it. Like whatever. It just didn't seem logical. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? He pulls him out of the ring. Like, you're going to do this 30 minutes, 35 minutes into the match. Like, just come out at the first part. Like, save us all some fucking time here. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I was hot. I was just like, dude, you have got to be kidding me right now. I knew that Jimmy would be out. It was just, when it was going to happen. Solo was going to be. And
did you think that he was going to interfere on behalf of Roman Reigns? I thought he'd be out. No, I thought he'd be out, but I figured he would be the equalizer.
Yeah, totally. And then that's how you get, somehow, Solo and Jimmy, fighting to the, the crowd or whatever, or they fight up the ramp, and then you have the one-on-one match that Roman ultimately wins. I mean, everybody, I guess some people have forgotten that. Let's rewind the tape. Jimmy is the guy that threw the first salvo of you, or the kick heard round the world. Okay, that was Night of Champions, if I'm not mistaken, when he kicked Roman Reigns.
You're right. He's the one who started it.
Okay,
it doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. How now all of a sudden we go from that to Solo and Roman basically putting him on the shelf, getting him hurt, to now he's going to help Roman / hurt his brother? That makes no sense. Zero. There is no way the way that this story has been told, it cannot. They are going to have to do some serious talking on SmackDown tomorrow night. And I wish we didn't record on Thursday because I need to hear this shit because it doesn't make sense. They had advertised that Jimmy's coming back to the bloodline. And what the fuck? That whole... It was a swerve to do a swerve. I don't care if you want to get...
So for those who are unfamiliar with the term, jumping the shark, yeah,
you was about to say you about to date us.
it's when a creative work or entity has reached a point in which it has exhausted its core intent and is introducing new ideas that are discordant with or in an over exaggeration of its original purpose. That sounds exactly like this moment. Like you're done. Like you have no more stories to tell, and you're just recycling. Bits, punchlines, and story moments. It's over the top.
I get you. Jimmy and Jay want their own feud. I could totally get that. This ain't the way to go about it. This makes zero sense. Zero.
I know. I think I saw somewhere that their dream is to have like a WrestleMania moment where it's the two of them, and they'll probably get that this year if this is the case. But there's so many other ways to do that. It doesn't have to involve Roman.
I think that it's like 35 weeks between now and WrestleMania. You're going to drag this thing out for 8 months? How the fuck are you going to do that? And this is good. That's what I'm saying.
There's babies that are going to be conceived tonight that are going to be born and healthy before that match.
Okay, I'm like, there's no way you can make this thing go that long. They're starting to have a hard enough time, getting Cody and Roman at this point where now you're getting into next year's WrestleMania. For those who said that Cody should have won at WrestleMania this year, this is a great, argument for that because now I won't say that Cody's story is suffering, but it's going back to not obvious, but a familiar feud, him versus Seth. And now you have this story, the bloodline story, that most people, including myself, have said it's the best story in WWE going on right now. Now you've made an illogical choice to where you got to have to now explain to why Jimmy has said, okay, you know what? Hey, I made a mistake, Roman. I didn't mean to kick you in your face. Now I want to come back and be a part of the bloodline. That doesn't, come on, man. That doesn't even, that's ultimately how this is going to sound like it's going to happen, because now, as advertised, if they go advertise, Jimmy's coming back to the bloodline. So basically he's going to have to, kiss the ring and all that other bullshit to Roman. That doesn't make sense. The whole reason that he kicked him in the mouth because he was out of pocket, and he wanted to keep the family together. Roman just didn't want to do it. So fine, fuck it. This is what you should have done a long time ago. Boom, kick in the mouth.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your letter grade?
Man. C-. It's too clunky for me. The main event makes no sense. The triple threat was clunky until EO saved it. Ronda, Shayna, not necessarily a great match. It was physical. I get it. He had a good start. The first 2 or 3. Drew and Gunther kind of underperformed a little bit, but I think they did it purposely. C-.
Yeah, I'm not too far off. I thought C+, just because half the matches were good and 2 out of the 3 were very, very good. Or 2 out of 4, like half. Yeah. So I'll give it a C+. But yeah, definitely going in, I thought this was a potential for like an A- or A level show, but
no, it was all right there. God damn, it had me so ready to be hyped up and talk great things about SummerSlam because they've been doing so well. And it's the couple of matches. It's unfortunately the 2 women's matches, and then the main event finish for me. I don't know how you're going to explain this one out. I don't get it, but neither here nor there. We'll talk about that next week. Just one side note I didn't talk about, because obviously Raw was not the next night, Monday night. Nakamura obviously turns on Seth Rollins at the end of Monday Night Raw. So it looks like Nakamura and Seth is going to be a thing probably coming at Payback, kind of pushing off Cody and Seth to maybe Survivor Series. I'll just ask you flat out, are you interested in the Cody Seth 4?
I mean, they've all been great, but not really. There's so many matchups that you can have. Like, I know that not everybody's at the top, but like, and they have like kind of a smaller roster than AEW, but I don't know. We saw it 3 times and yeah, it was excellent, but just let it breathe, man. Let it breathe until like Cody wins the title and then it's Seth like challenging, and then you're just like, oh man, like he already beat him 3 times. Like, can he overcome? I don't want to see Cody beat Seth a 4th time, because I don't think Cody should really lose until WrestleMania. I don't think he should lose then either.
Damn. Things gonna get real interesting here in the next couple weeks. Let's get to that 2 count. All right, so with 2 count, we're going to do, what do I want to do? You didn't watch completely all of that, so let's talk a little G1. Bye-bye, Mike. We'll see you in about 30 minutes. We're going to talk about the last 5 nights. So we're talking A through D block final and the quarterfinal, which was actually this morning. So let's talk about the A block final first. Matches of concern. You had Sonata. Well, I shouldn't even say that. Sonata had won the block at this point. He had come in with a wrap on his left arm, so that was a kind of a concern coming into the Chase Owens match. Neither here nor there. Sonata wins it, runs the block, completes the block undefeated, all 12 points. But the arm is something to look forward to going forward. From there, you had Ren Narita and Kaito Kiyomiya in a match. that Kaito Kiyomiya had to win, and he didn't win. So that makes me look like a big-ass dumbass, because I said when this thing started that Kaito Kiyomiya was probably the one guy that I was pretty sure that was going to move forward and advance to the quarterfinals, because of guys like Kojima and Yuji Nagata having success over in Noah, over in All Japan. I was thinking that New Japan would return the favor and throw Kaito Kiyomiya a bone. Clearly, I was mistaken. I'm thinking maybe this might be storyline for when he goes back to Noah. That's another story for the Phoenix Splash podcast. From there, you had then Shota Umino and Hikuleu in the main event, which was kind of weird until you figured out that the winner was going to get the runner-up spot. Obviously, Sonata has the A block 1 spot, so the winner of Hikuleu and Shota Umino was going to take the second spot, and Hikuleu pulls this shit out. We was talking dirty about him on multiple different podcasts, including this one, and Hikuleu comes out of the ashes and takes the dub. So A block winners, you have Sonata in the winning spot, the number 1 spot, and then the number 2 spot, the runner-up spot, is Hikuleu. Thoughts on the A block matches?
I thought this was a really good night of wrestling. The Yota Tsuji Gabe Kidd match was really good.
I was just getting ready to talk about that.
Yeah, Gabe Kidd. This is the one where Gabe Kidd comes out and beats up Yota Tsuji early, like he does for everybody. But then Yota Tsuji's standing behind him, and I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Am I being super racist right now, or does that dude look exactly like Yota Tsuji?"
Man, I'm like, how high am I right now? This is, man, I know it's pretty late, but god damn, what the fuck?
It's so nuts. But apparently he does have an identical twin, and they both have long hair and everything. Like, he looked exactly like him. He was a little less big.
Yeah, but I mean, when they were both on the ground at one point, when Gay Kid had them both down, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how they got confused. He's a little smaller, but yeah, in the face, you got to take a little closer look.
Yeah, but yeah, that was very funny, and it turned into a good match. I also. I couldn't believe that Ren Narita beat Kiyomiya, especially because Ren Narita hasn't won that many matches. And overall, I mean, this was solid, but Ren Narita out of the three Musketeers is probably the least impressive to me over the course of this whole G1. And I would not have thought that because I'm kind of a big fan. I like Ren Narita. I like his style. I like, he's like kind of the...
he's the anti-Shota.
He is the anti-Shota, but God, I'm just like blanking. My wife was just calling me, and I lost. Anyway, the trainer from the LA Dojo, and he's the ROH champion. Shibata, Jesus Christ, yeah, Katsuyori Shibata. He's like that, guy, and I like that gimmick. Just like the black tights and like I'm the shooter, badass dude. But he's not clicking like the other guys are clicking. The other guys are like real good. And that said, this was like Shota Umino. Even though in a loss, I thought he came across fantastic. I thought this was the best Hikuleu match I've ever seen, which I think is saying something for both guys, because he did wrestle Jay White and beat him. And
I was just getting ready to ask you about that.
Yeah, I thought this was the best Hikuleu match ever. I love Chris Charlton's commentary when he's saying like, and Shota Umino finds out that he is not the main character in this story. And I was like, that's like a really tough lesson for a young guy, right? Especially one who's got like a lot of star power. This is like all building stories. Really good stuff. We're witnessing like the genesis of the next generation of New Japan, and it's really cool. But yeah, it was a good night of wrestling.
No, I agree. When we were doing the G1, preview or whatever, Hikuleu was not getting a lot of love, and for me, for good reason. And then he started to come out of the A block, stumbling out of it. I think he lost his first 3, and now at this point he won. He lost his first 3 and then won his last 4 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he was on a 4-match winning streak going into the quarterfinals, and we'll talk about that in a second. Next night was the B block final. In this scenario, you had Okada already advancing. He had the number 1 spot locked up. So now you basically had ELP and Will Ospreay battling between themselves. The winner would go on and claim the second spot. I thought this was probably the match of the tournament now at this point. I know I said Ospreay Okada was the match of the tournament. This just turned on a super kick coming. Will Ospreay was springboarding off of one side of the ring, coming to the other, and he's been doing this pretty much all tournament when he's gotten guys outside of the ring, beating them down, and as soon as they come in, he'll springboard off the top and land them with the drop kick. He tries to do this to ELP. ELP just, I mean, one of the sweetest super kicks you have seen in a minute. Flush on the jaw. Ospreay sells the dog shit out of it, and from that point, this whole match turned on the dime. This was easily ELP's best match of the tournament, and maybe one of his better matches that I've seen in New Japan itself. Unfortunately for ELP, he comes out as the hard luck loser. Will Ospreay pulls out the victory. So in the B block, you had Ospreay as the runner-up and Okada winning the block. Other matches in that block, final block night, Kenta goes over Yoshihashi. Great-O-Khan finally comes off the side of the milk carton. Taichi kind of pushing Great-O-Khan, felt like a little Sonata episode. You know, you might want to put that in the back of your mind, see if that comes to pass. And then obviously we talked about Okada beating Tangaloa, and then ELP losing to Will Ospreay. Thoughts on the B block final night?
Yeah, I mean, the only match worth talking about was the Will Ospreay ELP match, and it was fucking awesome. I expected that match to be really good. I like both guys a lot. They complement each other very well, and man, they delivered. And he's a really good dude. Like ELP is like really good generally, but I feel like Ospreay like elevated him quite a bit there. I will mention the Okada Tangaloa just because of how goddamn bad it was. Like, dude, like Tangaloa does this like stupid spot where he's kind of like chopping and like jabbing with like the outside of his hand, and like Okada's doing his best to like sell this shit, but it just looks terrible.
Yeah, I did that. I think it was just because the camera was so close, so you could really see, you know, how he was quote unquote hitting Okada. Yeah, not a good look.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of Ishii. Like from what I understand, like from what I've heard, is like Ishii looks like he's murdering you.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember who it was. I think it was maybe Moxley. He was saying how Ishii is so great to work with, not only because he's so good, but like he looks like he's laying it in, and you don't feel a goddamn thing. Like he's barely touching you, but he really looks like he's laying it in. He's just like that good. This is the exact opposite of that. But outside of the main event, like if you haven't watched them, just watch that and don't worry about the rest.
True story. Let's talk about the C block. C block, probably the most intriguing block, just for the fact that you had multiple guys tied at the top. Eddie Kingston, Evil, and David Finlay all tied with 8 points. Shingo and Tama Tonga tied at 7 points. So obviously there is going to be some movement happening. Let's talk about the opening match first, because it's Ishii and Mikey Nichols. Once again, I think if there's any question about whether Tomohiro Ishii should come back for next year's G1, maybe you should go ahead and plug this joker in and just make sure that everybody sees this. It's literally from the bell. They met in the center of the ring and squared the fuck off. It's not big meaty men slapping meat. It's just men slapping meat, and they slapped some meat. It was a really good start for the C block night. Tama Tonga beats Hanare, so Tama Tonga moves to 9 points at this point. He leads the C block. Next matchup was the two guys tied with 8 points at the time, Eddie Kingston and David Finlay, never openweight champion versus the New Japan strong openweight champion. I thought that was a cool look with them kind of squaring off before the match even opened up. Unfortunately for Eddie Kingston, his kind of Cinderella ride comes to an end. He loses to David Finlay. A little fuckery involved, shocker of the century, but neither here nor there. David Finlay wins, so he moves up to 10 points and clinches the number one spot for the C block. So now you have Evil versus Shingo. Evil at 8 points, Shingo at 7 points. So let's do the quick math. Shingo wins, he gets tied with Tama Tonga. If that happens, Tama Tonga and Shingo have to have a match afterwards to see who wins the runner-up spot. Obviously, Evil at 8 points. If he wins, he gets the number one or the second spot behind David Finlay. I'll say this. As a non-House of Torture fan, I knew there was going to be some fuckery. I knew it. I have never in my life gotten so worked up about a House of Torture match that I did with this motherfucker right here. I mean, literally, I guess it was the fact that it was LIJ involved, and then they finally came out, and I was like, okay, now it's on, motherfuckers. Shingo about to handle this shit. And unfortunately, Shingo loses again. Evil wins the runner-up spot. So, C block winner, David Finlay. Runner-up spot, Evil. I don't know how people like House of Torture. I just don't get it. I don't fucking get it. Talk to me
People
about the
like
C block.
them?
No, there's people that actually like House of Torture. Believe it or not, there are motherfuckers out there that actually like that crazy shit. I'm like, wow. I don't mind the heels. Actually, I prefer heels. Baby faces are idiot. See Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw. But this is like way over the top where like it's the same. It's the Roman Reigns argument about the bloodline. Now we're seeing the same shit. And now it's costing Shingo, his spot in the quarterfinals. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have gotten this worked up if it was United Empire.
I think if Tomohiro Ishii is not in future G1s, it's a travesty. He's the MVP of like every single one of them. And his match with Mikey Nichols was very, very fun. Kingston and Finlay was fun because of the standoff. And I mean, Kingston ultimately did very well for a Gaijin entrant. And
dude's living his best life. I mean, he's meeting all his fucking heroes. He's wrestling in arenas that he's always dreamed about wrestling in, but only seen on TV. So yeah, he's doing all right. Yeah,
I shared on the on our text thread a video of him meeting Toshiaki Kawada, who, I mean, if you haven't seen any Kawada matches, like there's a reason that Eddie Kingston idolizes this dude. Like he wears his colors in the ring, the black and the yellow, and you can see his influence all over. But his matches with Mitsuhiro Misawa, I mean, his 6'3" that Kingston mentions in that video whenever he met him, I watch it like every year. It was the first ever 6-star match from Meltzer. So I mean, this is 1994. So we're talking like all the people that got mad about Okada and Omega and all that. It's like, he's been busting his own star ratings for way longer than that, folks.
It just took Okada and Omega to get it to that point.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, absolutely very funny. And then the next night, though, which I won't get into, I'll let you lead off, but Kingston was on commentary. So
yes.
I texted and Bill's like, yeah, he's like, they were talking about it on commentary. That's the only night of the entire G1 that I watched silently because I was working and I couldn't have sound on while I was working, so I just had it on in the background. And it's the match. I'm gonna have to rewatch it because I love Kingston on commentary, so I'll probably end up rewatching the D Block night. But yeah, of course, it would be that night that I miss out on. But anyway, this was fine. It was mostly there. I was not happy about the Evil situation. I kind of wanted to see an extra bonus match because I think that's fun. So
they're explaining what's happening in Japanese. I'm kind of like, I'm sitting there, bullshit or whatever, playing with the cats. And then finally, Kevin Kelly's like, oh. I'm like, what's going on? So they break it all down. I'm like, oh, you fucking Evil, you motherfucker. If you win this match, I'm going to be pissed. So, yeah, that on top of it is the cherry on top. We could have had a bonus match on principle alone, and now you have Evil go over. I'm like, dude, fucking suck my dick, Evil. I hate your ass.
It also makes it feel more like a real tournament because, like, just telling us about the possibility, yeah, that's kind of cool, but, like, make it happen. It's fake. You can make it happen.
Y'all motherfuckers trying to make this square peg round hole thing go, man, we gonna do this shit.
Yeah.
It's the Matrix. We gonna make this shit fit. God damn it. That's some funny shit. No, I can't say I totally disagree, but I'll say this. There was the press conference before the G1. Evil called himself Mr. G1, which now, upon retrospect, is kind of being scary because, you know, he's gotten into the quarterfinals. We'll talk about that here in a second. But he also said that if he didn't get into the quarterfinals, that he would shave his head bald in the middle of the ring. And that was another side story leading into this Shingo match where basically Shingo, could, win the match, have this play-in match with Tama Tonga, and Evil has to shave his head bald. I couldn't imagine a perfect world unless Halle Berry was in it. That being said, you would have a scenario where I still think it's going to happen. I think hair versus hair is ultimately going to be the end of this Shingo Evil feud. I don't know where it's going to happen, but somehow, some way, I think hair versus hair is how this is going to end.
Oh, yeah. Didn't even think about that.
Just throwing it out there, weird thought. They keep throwing the Clippers out there, and that was kind of a running side story. I forgot to mention that in the lead into the Evil Shingo match, but the LIJ and me got a little ahead of myself. All right, let's talk about D Block final night on the 9th of August. You had Jeff Cobb coming in, like we said last week, leaking oil, losing 2 matches in a row, sitting at 8 points. You had ZSJ at 8 points, Naito at 8 as well, and then Tama Tonga, I can't read my own handwriting, Tanahashi at 6, Goto at 6. We'll start at the first match because obviously it's a match that I want to talk about because that's a match that Yano loses. He loses to not Shane Coughlin, Alex Coughlin, where Gabriel Kidd comes out and assists Alex Coughlin to a point where Yano kind of loses his shit and, goes back to an old Yano. What the fuck is this?
I was here so bad.
Yeah, I was like, dude, who is this motherfucker? He came up with the scissors like, I'm going to stab the shit out your ass. I was like, oh, okay. Sorry, Yano. I forgot you had this side in you. That was to me and that's all I ever ask, okay? Every now and then, I just need Yano to fucking snap. Okay, come out.
Put somebody through a table,
right? Remind motherfuckers of how you used to be, Yano. That's all I ever ask. Outside of that, it's all day, every day. Fuck Yano. But this match was intriguing. I had to put the asterisk by it because the match itself wasn't the best match in the world. It wasn't 5-star, but this was a flashback to the old Yano. Thoughts on the flashback to the old Yano getting ready to stab Alex Coughlin with some scissors?
Yeah, that was very, very funny, and like funny in a different way, right? Because Yano matches they're funny to me, but this was like I was just like, oh, okay, and then he's like 2-on-1, right? Gabe Kidd and Alex Coughlin, and their whole thing is about like beating people up and like manhandling them, and he's like 1v2ing them. Like
right.
He's got chairs and scissors, and he puts Gabe Kidd through a goddamn table and has him bleeding out his elbow. I was like, this is awesome.
Okay, I was like, God damn, this is the Yano I can get with. Shit, and I'll fuck everybody up. Okay, now we're talking. So yeah, finally a Yano match that I actually like. You can mark it down August 9th, 2023. Alex Coughlin gets the win, but Yano finally comes out and it shows a mean streak that it's rare that I've seen him have since I started watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. Next up, you had Shane Haste versus Jeff Cobb. So like I said, Jeff Cobb is leading the block at 8 points. If he wins, he's in. If you don't know, Shane Haste is a part of TMDK. Also a part of TMDK, Zack Sabre Jr. So the story here is Zack Sabre Jr. talks Shane Haste into making sure that Jeff Cobb gets disqualified. Well, better choice of words, it would be a count out, so that way it would count as a draw and you would get a point. So at one point, you have Jeff Cobb and Shane Haste on the outside of the ring. Shane Haste grabbing onto Jeff Cobb's leg for dear life and then wrapping his legs around the guardrail. Jeff Cobb can't get in to the ring fast enough to beat the 20 count. Both guys get a point, but Jeff Cobb, the biggest loser. We'll talk about that here in a second, because immediately they're up, you had Zack Sabre Jr. versus Goto. Now, Zack Sabre Jr. is in a spot where he was going to lose the tiebreaker, because if he and Jeff Cobb both ended with 10 points, Jeff Cobb beat Zack Sabre Jr. straight up. So now Jeff Cobb would have the tiebreaker. But now, if Zack Sabre Jr. wins, he will have 10 points and will leapfrog Jeff Cobb, and that's exactly what he does. Zack Sabre Jr. wins. He now has at 10 points. Jeff Cobb's at 9 points. So now you have the main event coming up. Unfortunately, at this point, the ace, Tanahashi, was eliminated coming in to this match. He had 6 points, so no matter what happens, he is out. So all the pressure is on my boy Naito to win and in. If he wins the top spot. And obviously, if he loses, then Jeff Cobb takes the second spot, where Zack Sabre Jr. will get the top spot. Unfortunately for Jeff Cobb, Naito pulls out the dub. I thought this was Tanahashi's best match of the tournament. It always feels like somehow, some way, he pulls it out when he needs to, and I thought this was one of the better matches of both guys' tournament. To me, this was Tanahashi's best match. Naito's had some hits, some misses, neither here nor there. I think he will step it up here in a little bit, but we'll talk about that in a second. D-Block thoughts on the night. Go to 3-Bear.
Yeah, very fun double count out. I love the storyline aspect of it. So it was well done. I'm a huge Goto fan and huge Zack Sabre Jr. fan, and this match absolutely ruled. Like I said, even though I watched it completely on silent with no sound, it was awesome with no sound. I can't even imagine what it was like otherwise. And absolutely same for Tanahashi Naito. Definitely Tanahashi's best match of the tournament. I really liked his Zack match also, but they always work well together. This was next level though, because this is Tanahashi. This is Big Mac Tanahashi, right, pulling out all the stops. There's a very sad thing that somebody once told me, and it kind of like changed the way that I actually like view the world, and kind of like a lifestyle like thing where it was like, one time you're going to pick your kid up, right? And you're going to hold your kid and you're going to set them down. And then that will be the last time that you ever pick them up. But you don't think about that in the moment, right? You just pick up your kid and you set them down. But there is a last time, right? And every time I see Tanahashi do the high fly flow from the top to the outside, which he only pulls out for the big matches, I'm like, that could legitimately be the last time, right? Like he's been doing that for goddamn ever. And I mean, he's the ace. And at one point, that's going to be the last time that he does that. And we're not going to know in the moment, but we're going to look back and we're going to be like, oh yeah, that was it.
Now he pulled that joker out. I was like, okay, it's on. God damn it. Like, son of a bitch, this motherfucker ain't gonna go down quietly. You motherfucker. He had me twice on the inside cradles, especially in the first 10 seconds. I could easily seen that happen. There was one late in the match where he had Naito with another inside cradle, and that was pretty close to the 3 count.
That seemed to be the story. Like I said, I wasn't watching with commentary, but a lot of cradles. That seemed to be the story of the match. Was almost happened with an inside cradle early, and then they ended up, doing that kind of like over and over. Who was going to kind of snag the other? And I liked that it was a big match feel, but it told a different story. It wasn't like multiple Destinos or anything. We did get high fly flow. We did get aces high. We did get all that kind of stuff. But, Naito won with a tornado DDT cradle.
Right. So in that scenario, the inside cradle, even from last year when Naito, it seemed like he was having it. Well, it didn't even seem like it. He was having a run where he just rolled people up with the inside cradle. This kind of came into play. So a nice little callback to that little run. So now we have the quarterfinal set that was this morning. So to go back and, I'll just kind of explain it as we go along. First matchup, you had Hikuleu, who was the runner-up in A block, versus Naito, the winner of the D block. Naito goes over. I'll be honest, because I'm the Naito guy, and I'm not going to sit up here and lie. I never thought that Naito was ever in trouble. There was maybe one point where the choke slam happened, and this is where I was concerned that it could actually go south. From that point, once he kicked out of that, I was like, okay, I kind of felt confident in the fact that Naito was going to go over. Hikuleo had a great run. The fact that he even made the quarterfinals, I thought was an accomplishment considering the way he was booked to start. I just don't think he's ready for G1 semifinal level just yet. I'm still just getting past the fact of how poorly he's been booked up to this point, but hopefully that will change moving forward. Second quarterfinal, you had David Finlay, the winner of C Block, versus Will Ospreay, the runner-up in B Block. This bad boy was crazy off the bat. Will brings out the War Dogs. Jeff Cobb and Great O'Khan comes out for United Empire. Tables broken, all kinds of crazy shit. Jeff Cobb gets thrown out from ringside. Will Ospreay wins a wild quarterfinal match. He advances. So now one semifinal is set. You have Naito versus Will Ospreay. So the next two matches, winners face off against each other. Evil defeats Sonata. A part of me thinks that this might be trying to protect Sonata's arm, but I also think that this is storyline as well. Sonata had been rowing through the A block, obviously, like I said, undefeated through the A block, and the first loss he has is to his former tag team partner in Evil. So obviously, somehow, some way, Evil's going to get a title shot. Jesus fucking Christ. And in the main event, you had ZSJ versus Okada. I thought this was the match of the night for obvious reasons. You can't have Zack Sabre Jr. and Okada in a match and it's not a 20-minute time limit where they can go a little further and get things done. Okada wins a barn burner. Zack Sabre Jr. damn near had Okada tied up in a pretzel. Of course, Okada gets out of that, and then you had a sprint towards the finish. So the semifinals are set. That will be Saturday morning or Saturday night / morning, wherever you are in this continental United States. Naito versus Ospreay, Evil versus Okada. We'll hold off on those predictions for a second. Go ahead and talk about the D block.
Yeah, I can't believe that Evil beat Sonata. That's just the worst thing that, probably ever happened in history.
No, the worst thing is when Evil beat Naito for the double titles.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm so done with that. It's torture. It's just wild. It's wild to me. I figured, it's like, oh, maybe Okada beat Sonata, right? Or like something. I know that's not really lining up or anything, but I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. But I didn't get a chance to watch. I'm actually having on. It's on Silence. This is actually my second night of the G1 that I'm watching on Silent. Right now it's Finlay versus Ospreay, which is shaping up pretty good. But I did not get a chance to see this. But as far as like results go, I was already thrown off because my block picks were not necessarily open. But my guy's like still in. I still got Naito to win, so he's still in, and we'll see how it goes. But it should be a good next week. As much as I love the G1, I'm going to be kind of happy that it's over. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I say this motherfucker's dragging me down the street. I'm like, God damn, it's 5 shows this week. You kidding me? It's back to back. What the fuck? Okay, so if I get up at 6, I have to fast forward. I'm like, this is me. This is my life this week. Okay, this is how my life has been. If I get up at 6, I got to be at work at 10. Okay, so it's been bonkers. I'm over here on fumes, and I love the G1, but every year by the end, I'm just like, thank God this Joker's over. And I watch so much other shit on top of it, but that's my own damn fault. That's nobody else's fault. But yeah, this has definitely been a grind to say the least. So let's put the feet to the fire. Obviously, I'm assuming you're going to stick to your guns. You're going to take Naito over Will Ospreay.
Yep. I feel like Will Ospreay's story is not congruent with Sonata. I feel like Sonata's story is all about, him separating from LIJ, going off on his own, and he needs to beat, the leader of LIJ or lose, ultimately, like depending which one. And I feel like Naito's a much bigger deal. You're trying to sell out the Tokyo Dome. Naito is still a bigger star than Will Ospreay. And I just feel like Will Ospreay's path, I feel like at Wrestle Kingdom, if they're not doing Wembley, they're going to do Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay 3 at Wrestle Kingdom. So that's where his path's taking him.
All right. Evil versus Okada. Who you got?
God, I just hope it's Okada.
I say, please, for the love of God, if you like me, don't make me snap Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's some funny shit. No, I'm sticking to my guns. I got Ospreay, unfortunately, beating my boy Naito, and then Okada. It's gonna be 4-on-1, 5-on-1, but yeah, I'm gonna somehow say that the Rainmaker pulls that Joker out. So then you're gonna stick to you're gonna still say Naito wins G1, yeah.
Yep. That's my pick.
I'm still sticking with Will Ospreay until you show me otherwise. Right now, arguably the best in the business. Let's get to that 3 count. 3 beer. What's the 3 count?
3 count. We'll just talk briefly about Rampage for AEW because it's actually worth watching this week. We had Anna Jay and Sky Blue fighting over who has the best ass in wrestling, and it turns out it's still Sky Blue, even though she lost the match. But yeah, that's the only thing I can see them fighting about, really, realistically.
He's heating up!
But and then the main reason you should watch this though is for the parking lot fight. Absolute chaos. I was texting the boys here, and I was like, dude, if I was 12 years old, this would have been my favorite match of all time. It was so chaotic. Like, they just destroyed so many cars and so many people with so many weapons. I mean, at one point, Chuck Taylor is siphoning gas from a car so that he can light a board wrapped in barbed wire and cloth on fire.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Everything up to that point was pretty much like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, ooh, yeah, ooh, damn, Trent's taking that work, man. Damn, Trent's taking, man. Somebody needs to check on, make sure Trent's okay. And then all of a sudden, they turned to the camera spot where you see Chucky T. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Man, this shit is so wild. I was like, man, I would have been so mad at myself if I'd have never saw this match. It's easily one of the funniest fucking, it's one of the not graphic, but just over the top, just guys just bleeding, getting thrown in the windshields, poor Sue's getting drugged out of the minivan. I mean, BCC is just running fucking amok, and none of that is even close to Chuck E. T. sniping gas. He like, you know what? Y'all gonna piss me off now. I'm gonna burn all you motherfuckers up. And then caught one in the stomach. I was like, God damn. No, great fucking main event. If you haven't seen it, you need to go out your way to check the motherfucker out. Talk about Collision.
Yeah. So Collision opened up with an FTR title defense, which has pretty much kind of been the highlight of Collision, like as a show. FTR has been I don't want to say unsung hero because they are stars of the show, but
I was going to say the de facto world champion since there's not like a quote unquote real world champ. Oh wait, there is. My bad. Go ahead.
They even call it that.
Like, what the fuck, man? You can't come up with a better name.
I'm kind of frustrated with that. On the record saying I don't like the dual belts, and also the fact that the actual real world champion hasn't even acknowledged it because it's like they're in different universes. These are just on different shows, especially with their history. You think MJF would at least have some snide comment about it.
I was about to say, you saw how quick he got on Adam Cole and when he thought there was going to be a promo battle. I mean, you would easily think that he'd been salivating at the prospect of getting some more CM Punk. Yeah,
but regardless, FTR, they defeated Big Bill and Brian Cage, who are a very fun tag team. This Mogul Embassy, also we can talk about a little bit later, when we talk Dynamite, but man, Swerve was at like a point where he was like, losing matches, which is fine. And he was just like with like a bunch of nerds, like that tattooed guy and stuff. And it wasn't clicking. And then they're like, all right, let's just put him with like, this is like low key the best stable in AEW outside of, you got your Elite and your Blackpool Combat Club. Those are like top guys.
Right.
As far as like mid card, like stables, this is it. Pretty awesome. And Big Bill and Brian Cage are a great tag team. And they put him over on the loss, basically had a fun match and said, we run up and down the card, 58 minutes, all this. We just beat those big bastards, saying it was tough. But they called out the Young Bucks. And so just kind of the overarching story of Collision and Dynamite, I'm just going to get it out there right now. I know my kind of, my gimmick has been like the AEW mark, but I'm not necessarily the AEW defender, right? I'm not really the defender because I will call it like I see it. And as great as I think All In will be as a show and the matches that they're saying they're going to have and they're putting together, only one of them, well, I guess two of them have stories.
Right.
The rest is just, we're going to have this match. And so FTR just says Young Bucks. And cool, FTR Young Bucks 3. That'll sell tickets on its own. And they don't even need to sell tickets. They're going to sell this thing out.
Motherfuckers going to get rolled on the way into Wembley at this point. Shit.
But there's no, I know that they have history, but there's no story. Right? So that's what happened. What do you think?
I'm honestly surprised that you're not a little more stoked about this. To me, I don't even think
I'm very excited. I'm ready to get my $50 now.
Yeah, I was going to say Joey's going to take my $10 at some point in the next couple weeks. I don't think. Do you need a story at this point? I think that it's just two teams that just want to find out who's the better team.
I think if it was just that, it wouldn't be as bad, right? Because that is in and of itself you could do that. But then we also had Samoa Joe come out and who did he wrestle? Serpentico, right?
Mm.
I mean, a reason I couldn't remember, this match was 5 seconds long.
Yeah, it was the fastest Collision match in history.
And again, they have history, right?
Right.
A fantastic trilogy. They had a really solid match on Collision in the Owen Hart, tournament, semifinal. But that's history. And the story is that Samoa Joe's not happy with a roll-up finish, right? And he's our story deserves more than that. That's okay, but it's not very compelling. Yes,
right.
The match is great. The history will be there. The callbacks will be there. I think it's going to perform really well. But I think just 2 in one show where last week I was talking about, hey, guys, we need some matches for these 2 pay-per-views that we're going to do. And then it was almost like Tony Khan was listening to BFR and he's yeah, we really got to do these matches. Let's just go out there and just have guys say names. That's not a story. That's not, and they're going to sell. They already sold the tickets.
Right.
They're going to sell the pay-per-views, but it's going to be a great show, but it's not compelling yet. Maybe it will be. Maybe the build will be better over the next couple of weeks. But going out and saying a name, it's pointing at the WrestleMania sign, right?
Shit, Sting did that shit. I was getting ready to say. I was like,
I did. Yeah, he pointed at the Wembley sign.
I'm come on, man, don't do this. I was about to say, don't do this. Now y'all gonna be, you already getting made fun of, doing WWE shit. Now Sting's gonna point to the fucking sign. You know what everybody's thinking. I mean, no, don't do that. I guess I don't necessarily. I guess if I have a problem with either or not having a quote unquote story, it's probably more so Joe and Punk, especially with Punk, coming out now, he's the real world champion, and Joe, made reference to that on more than one occasion, which I thought was a really, really good promo for the week. One of my favorites, for all the wrestling I watched, this promo really stood out, but Joe does great mic work.
Joe's just so good with his delivery. I can't wait to watch. He made me want to watch Twisted Metal. I want to watch that shit on Peacock. It's a television series based on a beloved PlayStation 1 franchise. I mean, I played the shit out of that game, but if you were hey, do you want to see a TV show? You want to spend what little free time you have watching a TV show based on vehicular combat game from 25 years ago, I'd be like, probably not. And they're like, Samoa Joe's in it. And I'm like, oh,
what?
yeah.
You're shitting me. He made it compelling. So now that's why I think I'm invested in the match. I didn't even watch their ROH matches, so I can't speak intelligently on it. But I understand the history. I get it. But Joe, to me, is the one that's selling it. CM Punk, for whatever reason, whether it's, he doesn't, well, obviously it's come out now where, he's the champ or whatever, quote unquote champ. But I don't feel like he's the champ. Like you said, MJF hasn't, even acknowledged his presence. It's kind of a joke in certain spots. Ricky Starks, made fun of it this week on, well, not this week, but Collision on Saturday, and then the week before leading up to their match or whatever the case may be. It just doesn't feel real. For a lack of a better word, it just doesn't feel real. And I'm looking for, that's why I think another part of this missing is that it's CM Punk's, it doesn't feel like he is the champ. In my head, he never lost. I get it. So, like I said last week, drunkenly, he's the real champion and MJF's the interim champion in my head. But I get why there is the disconnect, because ultimately everybody's looking at MJF and Adam Cole, baby, as the probable main event for the AEW championship. I get that. At some point, my guess is Punk somehow beats Joe, MJF somehow beats Adam Cole, baby, and then the following week you have a unification match in Chicago, all in Chicago, Punk, MJF, winner takes all.
Yeah, that's likely. All right, so we did have a fun trios match. The only main reason I bring it up is because they infringed upon our gimmick again. It was a house rules match where what's her name?
Julia Hart.
Julia Hart was banned from ringside, which officially she is not. But if you want to come on the show, Julia, just come find us.
She could have been on the show tonight. I'm just saying, there's a spot open, Julia. Come on in, girl.
You wanted to be on the show that bad?
Yeah, right.
But it was fun. They've been. These guys are great. Them being trios champions, like they could. Even if they lose the titles, like sometime in the near future, like I think all three of these guys are great singles wrestlers, but they make a really excellent team, and they provide very fun matches. And just the trios thing, it gets more people on TV. And I like the house rules thing. I like the open challenge aspect of it. I like the fact that there can always be like a different weird stipulation, even if they aren't always hit.
I like the match too. I honestly, I think this is a possible precursor to just on the challenger side. If and when Dante comes back, take Lee Johnson out, put Dante in, and you can have challengers for either the ROH or the AEW 6-man / trio titles. Another story for another time. House of Black just looks so good together. They work well together. Great chemistry. Buddy Matthews losing to Andrade, and then Andrade's vignette this week really makes me think it's not over yet. Now, how we get to Wembley, fingers crossed, LFI versus House of Black. That's the dream match in my head, since we're throwing around dream matches and we just calling motherfuckers out. Somebody needs to call somebody out on either side of this fence so we could go to Wembley with that match. That's, or Malachi Black versus Andrade, more serious dream matches, fantasy booking, whatever you want to call it. Andrade, Malachi Black, is a possible.
Malachi Black's real wife versus his ex valet. It's like it's a with Zelina Vega on a pole match,
right?
But whose pole? Oh,
look at you! You ain't shit.
But speaking of awesome dream matches with no build, then they announced that next week it's going to be House of Black versus CMFTR. Like, that came out of nowhere. Yeah, it's going to be awesome, but okay. I mean,
Yeah, right.
they need ratings. Saturday night's a tough night. That's a great way to get them. But yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere.
Nowhere.
Speaking of coming out of nowhere, Powerhouse Hobbs, Robs, QT Marshall, and Harley Cameron of a gold chain. That was kind of random. We'll see where that goes. And then, dude, Christian Cage.
Oh my God.
I do not want Darby to take this title
Ever.
At Chicago.
No.
Darby should not win this.
No.
I actually think that they should reunite Jungle Boy and all of them together, as heels again, instead of baby faces. But Christian is there with a small child who we find out is his daughter, and he's she does such a great job. She's looking very scared, and he's holding her against him, so she won't run away. And then she says, "Can I hold your belt?" And he's like, "Did you win this title?" He's like, "No." He's like, "No, you can't hold this belt." And then he's like, "Go find your mother." And she walks away. And then he tells security, he's like, "Hey, she's not credentialed. Get her out of here."
He's heating up.
Just phenomenal.
Oh man, no, dude! I rewound this 3 times. It's. I mean, just watching Christian work his magic was just so good, so good. God bless the daughter. She played it all perfect, and Christian just took that ball and ran with it. It was like you said, doesn't have the credentials line was the one that just really just had me dumpled on the fucking floor late Saturday night watching this shit. I thought it was just so well done. I agree with you totally. Darby Allin can win the TNT title at some later point. It just can't be right now. I do not want Christian to go away this soon on a TNT run that could be absolutely a fucking Comedy Central epic ride. Not Bloodline epic fun, but just funny in its own separate way. Have him continuously say it's his belt, but then every now and then have to, take a step back, because Luchasaurus is there, at some point he's going to have to wrestle for you. It's our belt, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like Friday, it's our Beach Cruiser.
Yeah. He's my favorite TNT champion, and he's not even the TNT champion.
Hell no. That's a goddamn shame, okay? There's no way that Christian should be this over and be your favorite TNT or favorite AEW quote-unquote champion. There's great guys in this fucking roster, but Christian has really stolen the show on Collision, and I'm looking forward to him every week. I'm looking forward to see what he's doing next week.
Yeah. And then we had a couple good matches, but we don't talk about them for the sake of time. But Jay White defeated Metalik in a very solid match. They keep putting him against Lucha guys, which is kind of a weird mix. But I don't understand that. But, I mean, he's fantastic. And then Sheeta beat Anna Jay. And, that was totally fine. Again, women in the main event, that's cool. It was a women's title match. It should have been in the main event, especially if you were not going to have the tag titles in the main event. So, then we go on to Dynamite. Let me pull up Dynamite here.
You don't want to talk about Ricky Starks and CM Punk?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, we did have that.
Oh, yeah. The real world title was up for grabs.
When was that? That wasn't the...
That was the Collision main event.
That was the main event? Did I just turn it off? I think I might have just turned it off. I don't even think I saw this.
Oh, God.
I think I thought the women were the main event. I think I just turned it off.
That's amazingly fucking
you talk
funny.
about it.
So obviously,
I obviously care. I'm obviously invested in the storyline.
Yeah, very much so. So obviously, the main event of Collision was Punk versus Ricky Starks for the quote unquote Real World Championship.
How did I do that?
That is so fucking
so
funny. Ricky Steamboat as the special referee / enforcer. I thought that was pretty good. It really didn't get interesting until Ricky Steamboat kind of had to get involved physically with Ricky Starks and CM Punk at different points. The CM Punk look on to Ricky Steamboat was intriguing. It got more intriguing once I found out that they had a feud going in ROH for a little bit. So I was like, okay, now there could be some fuckery going on. I don't see it, but throwing that nugget out there was good. Good job, Ian Riobongi. Honestly, I'll just go this far. The finish was what it was. CM Punk wins the match, but it doesn't feel like this is over because Ricky Starks had CM Punk pinned, but he had the feet on the ropes, I think, or he had the arm on the ropes, or whatever the case may be. Ricky Steamboat hits the arm off. There was a ref bump at this point. So then, there was action in the ring. They had to bring another ref in to actually make the count. And then post-match, Ricky Starks attacks both CM Punk he actually attacks Ricky Steamboat. CM Punk left the ring but had to come back to make the save. Starks took off Ricky Steamboat's belt, whipped him with it like a little dog, and that's basically how the show ended. So it felt like it was once again meat left on the bone just because how the physical match ended. I think it was like a roll-up victory or some shit like that where actually CM Punk won the match. But then post-match, obviously, with the whipping of Ricky Steamboat, CM Punk is kind of feeling like more of the babyface here, where you're kind of angling Ricky Starks as more of a heel. Even though the crowd was basically split, I mean, it was, doing chants or whatever the case may be. I'm assuming, TK wants people to boo Ricky and cheer CM Punk. One good way to do that is have Ricky Starks whip a legend on late Saturday Night TV. So that's how Collision ended. All
right. Well, I probably won't revisit that, but thank you for the update.
I probably didn't do the finish justice, but it's been a long week, and I don't remember the exact finish of it, so sorry, not sorry.
Well, Saturday was just long, man. I mean, I watched like a 4.5 hour SummerSlam, and I drank so many hard Mountain Dews, and I was just like,
how you survived that? I have no idea.
And then, but like I said, it's like over by like 8:30, so I'm like, okay, well, I can watch Collision now. But obviously, I was banged up enough to not watch all of it.
That's great.
So let's see. Starts out with Jericho Appreciation Society mandatory meeting, and if I look at this in a vacuum, I really like it. Everybody kind of had a different thing to say. It brought up their history. I thought the delivery was very good, especially the 2.0. What's their new name? Matt Menard and
Angelo Parker. Yeah.
Do they have a name? Or
I thought they did. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah. Anyway, I really liked theirs, especially Daddy Magic. Man, Daddy Magic is like low key, like real solid promo dude.
Yeah, he was the one where I was just like, oh man, damn, and he gave you too. Oh shit.
But I feel like it was like everybody did a great job of like mixing real life with kayfabe. That said, it didn't seem like the crowd was super invested. It was a long segment, and it opened the show, and it was just kind of there. And like I'm into the storyline. I'm like I'm all fine with it. But I feel like in a vacuum, I felt like I really liked this, but it wasn't like crazy impactful. I did not though at the end get the vibe that even though Jericho was like disagreeing with them and trying to talk over them and be like, "What are you guys doing?" I did not get the vibe that he's going with Don Callis. We're going to get our answer next week, apparently.
Right.
We keep hearing that, and they're dragging it out, which is all fine. We got weekly television, but I didn't get that vibe. So
yeah, and then Sammy's saying, maybe I'll be here. I'm like, okay, so what's that about? I mean, so if Jericho turns down Don Callis, or Sammy and Jericho go, form like sex gods again. I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. Just looking at it, just micro, the segment I thought was really good, and I got invested into it. But then when you take the step back and like, okay, so what's going to happen next? Now it doesn't make sense again, because Sammy just saying maybe is not as impactful as everybody else saying their piece, looking at it from their perspective of the storyline or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, in that scenario, it was a weird ending, and it just, like you said, it just felt a little too long. You just should have had everybody just say, you know what, we're out. And
also, you think Sammy, like, in kayfabe, like, he's got a pregnant Latin American wife, and he's just kind of, like, disagreed with her over this, like, straight, like, he's going to go back for a tongue lashing,
okay,
man.
Yeah,
like, she's not going to be happy with him. Like, yeah.
She about to fuck you up, man. What you mean, baby?
And he's like, I still think Jericho should be, like, the godfather of our child.
Actually, I still have this drop.
Absolute fucking bullshit. Official bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's next?
Next we had Young Bucks versus the Hardys. This is not the match that it would have been, even 5 years ago, but the crowd was into it. It was babyface versus babyface. Young Bucks did what they could with these guys, but they can barely fucking move. And, put on Dynamite, they get, the Hardys still have like marquee value, so them beating them is kind of a big deal. And it's a fun match for the fans. Like, if I go to if AEW came to town and it was like, hey, I get Young Bucks Hardys, like that's a fun night out wrestling, right?
Yeah,
like that's cool.
I feel like I'm getting my money's worth.
Absolutely. So, fun match, on free TV. And, the thing again after this, so they get done, they have like a show of respect. Brandon Cutler spraying everybody with the cold sprays, getting Jeff Hardy on the neck. It's like, hey, let's get you cooled off. By the way, Cutler's grown a magnificent beard.
Yeah, it's rare when I see him on screen, but yeah, that Joker's nice.
Yeah, and so then they just grab a mic and they say FTR. And then FTR's music hits them and go, okay, we're going to face off.
I was like, damn,
and then
you even got the words out good.
Yeah, and then they just come out and they just raise the belts in their face, and I'm like, all right, like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not going to defend it. It seems lazy to me. It doesn't need it. It doesn't require it, but it still seems lazy.
I can't say I totally disagree. And if anybody agrees with you, I see why. For me personally, I don't have a problem with it because it's just about, who's the better team. And it's kind of been that way since FTR has walked in the door. So in that scenario, it's nothing that is, they attacked Nick and then now Matt's back for revenge or shit like that. It's since FTR walked in the door, it was always who was the better team. And now they're just trying to figure it out, and here's the tiebreaker. To me, that's the story.
And then we had another fun video package with Adam Cole and MJF. This time they're at a trampoline park. MJF is not happy about this until he finds out there's dodgeball where he can go just waste kids in dodgeball.
Man, this motherfucker was gunning.
But that was pretty fun. And then Jack Perry beat Rob Van Dam for the FTW title. Not a crazy long match, but man, this was way better than I would have expected.
Yep.
RVD did all of his spots. I mean, he didn't do like everything like that RVD would have done like in the 90s, but like he did, like his split leg moonsault, and he did his frog splash, and he did like the thing where he rolls and then does the
Rolling Thunder.
dive. He did Rolling Thunder, and then he did like a spinning leg drop off the apron onto the guardrail. A lot of fun spots, and man, he looked really good for his age. And Jack Perry, I'm trying to remember, how did he? Oh yeah, low blowed him. So yeah, he low blowed him, and then he sent him into the chair because there's a lot of weapons, tables. Perry went to a table, and but yeah, he low blow, sent him into the chair, rolled him up, pulled the tights for the win.
Okay, so, I'm making sure I'm getting this dub tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pulling all these tights.
Yeah, surprisingly better than I would have thought.
Yeah, I agree totally, especially in this scenario on the Rob Van Dam side, because you kind of figure Jack Perry is going to do okay, but can Rob Van Dam hold up his end of the bargain? And he did way better than I anticipated. Like you said, pulled out all the hits, past, present, and future. So yeah, it was a good match. It was better than I anticipated. And right guy goes over. Now what's next for Jack Perry, because ultimately we're waiting for Hook to come back, but in the meantime we got to keep Jack. I guess we're going to have him be the AEW legend killer. Which legend is he going to get next? Is that Jerry Lynn or somebody else that we haven't thought of? So we'll see what happens.
I'm only going to bring this up because it's very funny. Whenever they had Lucha Brothers and Alex Abrahantes in the back talking about their upcoming match, and Alex Abrahantes, I like him. I think he does a really good job. When I saw him, though, I feel like his gloves are like a little too big for his hands, and he's wearing like bright white gloves, and it just makes him look like Mickey Mouse. And I just couldn't stop thinking about that. He's wearing these bright white gloves are like a little too big.
You ain't shit, dog. I can't say I disagree with you now that you mentioned it. I'm kind of like, yeah, I can kind of see that. Yeah, I can see where you're going with it.
It's so silly. And then there was a promo, not battle, specifically not a promo battle, with MJF and Adam Cole. So they make an interesting challenge. There's a lot to this. There's a lot to unpack here without giving like the full rundown of everything, like minute by minute. So just assuming that you saw this, MJF and Adam Cole, they are now going to be on the 0 hour of All In wrestling for the ROH tag team titles. This makes Roddy Strong mad, and so officially seems like Roderick Strong is going to join with the Kingdom, which is Adam Cole's old group from Ring of Honor. He's mad because it makes more sense for Adam Cole to join with Roderick Strong, even though he's got a fucking neck brace on.
Oh shit! As I say, see, this is why you can't get healthy, man. You just getting yourself worked up, man. Calm down.
He really is getting himself worked up. He's working himself into a shoot, brother.
Oh shit!
But he is so mad, and MJF like lays into him, and that causes tension with Adam Cole and MJF, and then they hug it out. That's like the big thing, right? There's different levels of like tension each week, and then the crowd chants hug it out, and they hug it out. It's fun. It's all good. But it is an interesting decision. I think for for business wise, I think it's pretty smart. You got your guys in your main event that are in your 0 hour, because what is the 0 hour for? It's to get people who might be on the fence about spending $50 to spend their $50. And if they shoot some angle, whether it's a tag team title win or whether it's like more dissension or whatever, it's just going to get people invested. So basically all of this to say, do you think that they win or not at the 0 hour?
Oh no, I can't, pick against my tag team of the year at this point. I mean, that's ludicrous. I wouldn't mind it to happen just because, now you've opened up another can of worms. But if I had to take a guess, this is just another way to build more tension where now MJF finally bubbles over. You saw how he was looking at his shirt, and when Adam Cole touched his shirt, he kind of wiped his shirt, and that's a heel move. It's like, basically don't touch me. Your germs are on me. Let me wipe this shit off. Same thing. In this scenario, they slowly but surely somehow Roddy helps to be the wedge, so to speak, between Adam Cole, baby, and MJF. It finally bubbles over against Aussie Open, and then you have a heel MJF versus a babyface Adam Cole, baby, as the main event at Wembley. Just a guess.
Yeah, I think so too. But the old the Blackpool Combat Club, which is Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, defeated the Lucha Brothers. This match was very fun. Man, Blackpool Combat Club is just they're a reason to watch like any show. They're always doing very cool shit. They're always having very good promos. And fuck, Danielson's not even there.
Right. I was just getting ready to say the one guy that we all know and admire is healing up from his tap out win over Okada.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, not much to this except kind of continuing this feud. But yeah, very fun match. And then we had Omega. The only reason I'm going to bring this small vignette up is because we're going to get a sit down next week where Jim Ross is going to interview Kenny Omega, and he's going to talk about Wembley, talk about his future. But he brings up Don Callis and Takeshita. So that makes me think that we're going to get Takeshita Omega, which sounds amazing. It is not very marquee because Takeshita is not a star yet to an American audience or probably even to a British audience, but it's like a low-key show stealer. So I'm happy to include that in my $50 purchase if that's the direction they're going. What do you think is Kenny Omega's all-in situation? Because it's probably not going to be Ospreay, I guess.
No, and Pac's obviously hurt now. That's obviously not storyline, but it's a real shoot.
Which, what
injury.
a bummer, because he's a UK guy.
Yeah, and it would have been a perfect spot if you wanted to run Omega Pac back, because obviously they have history as well. I guess we're going to Takeshita, which I don't have a problem with. Like I said, when he was in that Blood and Guts match, he really stood out there. He stood out at Forbidden Door. So, I mean, for me, if you want to try to get Takeshita over, there's certain people that you could put him across immediately and make that happen. It makes storyline sense. I wish he wouldn't have said Takeshita's name, because I probably wouldn't have thought of it unless once he said his name, I was like, ooh, okay, now you can shut up right now. We got a Wembley match, and we can just move ahead from that point. No need to even have the sit down interview. If you want to say you want to chase the title at some point, that's cool too. Maybe something with him and Kota Ibushi would be the other thing that I could possibly think of as a possible tag team. If you wanted to bring in Kota Ibushi in some form or fashion, whether it's in Wembley or in Chicago. But we'll see what happens. If knee-jerk reaction to Takeshita, something off the reservation, a tag team match with Kota Ibushi.
Yes. That's a good idea. So then we had Mogul Embassy. I just realized what I did. My notes were bad. I put...
You transcript the notes?
Yeah, like Anna Jay and Hikaru Shida on the last... They were on Dynamite. They weren't the main event for Collision. But anyway, that's
Dead man, you didn't even watch the main event.
Yeah, so I just I don't know. Maybe
fuck it, this is the main event.
Yeah.
This is the new main event on Collision. Okay.
So cool. I guess that makes more sense, because I probably just fell asleep then because I did see the Hikaru Shida match. Anyway, we don't have to talk about that again. But Mogul Embassy's out there, and like I said, badass group. They further this storyline. This is a match with a build and like a story, and it's got a lot of layers, and it's got a lot of parties included. And we have Darby coming out and kind of adding more layers to the story, saying that he did call AR Fox, and basically saying AR Fox was a drug addict.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, and so then we have he says, I've got friends. You got new friends. I've also got friends. And Sting is in the ring, and Sting beats everybody's asses, NWO style, and puts a bat up against Swerve's neck and points at the sign. So we're gonna get Swerve Scott and I don't know why I say that. Swerve Strickland. I don't know why I say this all the time. Swerve Strickland, and we're gonna get AR Fox versus Sting and Darby in a coffin match for Wembley, which sounds awesome. That match is going to be nuts.
Oh, I mean, even if there's not, and there is a build for this, and maybe I was thinking Nick Wayne was going to be the guy. But
I thought he'd be in there too, like with a trio thing.
Yeah, I was thinking Nick Wayne and Darby, but then Sting came out. I was like, okay, this works too. obviously a coffin match, you know how it's going to end, but I need this to be as bonkers as humanly possible. And 3 of the 4 guys can do that. There's one guy that just needs to sit his little narrow ass down, and that's Sting, okay? No stupid bumps for you, old man, okay? Last time we saw you, you damn near took your own head off jumping off of a ladder onto a table. It's time to go ahead and let the Young Bucks do their thing. And literally and figuratively, let the Young Bucks do their thing. So Sting's only job is to bring down the bat, have the big pop, and do some shit that's Stinger Splash-esque. Nothing more than that. I don't need to see him jumping off of a balcony this time around. Please and thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Stay safe. Yeah, that's AEW. We're rolling towards 2 pay-per-views, and, they're putting on good shows on Saturday and Wednesday, and actually the last couple of weeks, even Friday. So it's a lot of TV, and I think that's part of the fatigue, right? It's like not just G1. We got an extra 2 hours of AEW. We got, if you watch just SmackDown and Raw, that's 5 hours. If you watch just Dynamite and Collision, that's another 4. That's 9 hours of television, and that's not even getting to any Japanese or any other kind of stuff that you want to watch, or like SummerSlam. SummerSlam was 4 hours long. If there happens to be a pay-per-view, it's a lot. So,
no, it was definitely a lot to consume this week for sure. I guess what was my question I was going to ask you? And I can't think of it now. Fuck it. That's it for our 3 count. Now that's fatigue right there, ladies and gentlemen, or just me being a little too high. Little odds and ends, NXT style. Mustafa Ali beats Axiom. Blair Davenport beats Kalani Jordan. Tyler Bate beats Noam Dar for the fake Heritage Cup championship. Noam Dar gets his fake cup back, and then he and Nathan Frazier are going to have a match for the real Heritage Cup. I believe that's in a couple weeks. Braun Breaker defeats Von Wagner, but Von Wagner puts Braun Breaker through a table. So that's probably going to be a thing. Wesley's heel run comes to a bit of a halt for a little bit. Dijak attacks him in the parking lot, or not in the parking lot, in the locker room. And then he being Wesley, sees Trick Williams in the parking lot and tells Trick to let Carmelo know that he's not done with him yet. Trick Williams having his own little plot going on. He's going to challenge Dragunov for a match next week. Everybody pray for Trick Williams. He might not come back the same way. Dominic Mysterio in the main event defeats Dragon Lee with fuckery from Rhea Ripley. Ultimately, I think Dragon Lee takes the North American title off of Dominic Mysterio. I just don't know when yet. Hopefully it's no time soon, because I'm sorry, I like Dominic Mysterio as the North American champion. That shit seems fun to me, and it's pissing a lot of people off, so that seems even more fun. From there, some odds and ends from NXT that nobody really wants to talk about. Sorry, Bill, I love you, but NXT was not really that good. A lot of vignettes. I think that's going to cover it. Now, unless you got anything you want to add to this odds and ends, I don't have birthdays because, motherfucker don't do that. I don't know how to do it, and that's
not our gimmick.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that's Bill's thing, baby. Nothing else?
No, I'm good. I'm good. There's so much. I can't even keep up with it, so we'll just wrap it up.
My nigga. Well, everybody, I know there's a lot of podcasts out there. We thank you for listening to ours. For Tender Hall, for Lucha Chris, for Murray to Marin Murray, for Patriot Pat, for Vice, for who's this one? That's hang on, who's that? Oh, Billy the Cat, for Lucifer the Cat, for the departed Bill Vagey. We'll see you next week. Prayers up for the fam. That is 3 Beers, Zach Pullman. I'm Jason Cornelius Bell, and everybody, boo the motherfucking heels, bitch.